Hey, how's it going? Long time no see. It's Josh. Today I'm going to show you some cool tricks on how to make your tracks more interesting using some ear candy techniques. Use them to your advantage, and I'm going to show you 10 ways to do so. Okay, and also be sure to subscribe to my channel, Sohn Compositions, where you can watch more videos like this in the future. Please take some notes, listen to these tracks with a good pair of headphones or speakers if you can. Alright, to start with, number one will be high pass filter sweeping, or even low pass filter sweeping, which is the opposite. Doing this gives the music contrast and motion to a certain section of the piece. It sounds like it's under a pillow, and your ears will pick up on the gradual opening of the sound. Here's an example of that you may recognize.
Open Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
You can hear that the bass track and the synth lead track is being filtered. So in order to do so, you'll need to open up your track, and with the filter side, this would be a low pass filter because everything that's being passed through right now is the low frequencies, and I'm cutting the highs out. So it's a low pass filter, and then I'm opening it up. You can also do it the other way. So if it's a low cut or a high pass filter, all the high frequencies here are being passed through while the lows aren't, and then as you open that gate, it just gets wider and wider, and it just sounds more full and deep going the other way. So as you do that, you want to automate this. If you know how to automate or don't, I'll show you a quick way to do that. So using the same track, I'm gonna automate this. So let's do the opposite. Let's do a high pass.
Open Gangnam Style.
All right. And also now I have that written, and you can see here that there's automation being written and recorded. So that's how you do that. You can use it with your mouse, or if you have a nice fancy MIDI controller with faders on them, you can record it that way. Okay, moving on. Number two is using tape stops or tape speed ups to your tracks to make it sound also very interesting, and it keeps the listener engaged. This trick is quite trendy nowadays in pop music, EDM music, etc. Here's an example of that.
This is who I'm meant to be. This is me.
Okay, and here's also another section. Okay, so I hope you caught on to what was happening. There is a kind of this glissando effect. In classical music, we call it glissando, where it's just smearing, and there's you know, like maybe your guitar is sliding from up from the fretboard and down, or vice versa. So that's what a tape stop does, but it does that to a select number of tracks, or you can do the entire track. I would probably recommend doing that with one or two tracks while keeping the vocals or something else retained. Alright, so to get started with a tape stop effect or speed up effect, all you need to do is find where the DAW has that option. In Cubase it's called pitch shift. In Logic, I think it's native inside of their fades, and you can actually, which is pretty cool, and do it that way. So first thing is you want to find the spot. This is kind of a longer clip, so let's say I wanted just to do like that last part. So I'm gonna cut it. All right, I'm gonna select that little event, and in this case go back to the pitch shift. And there's two tabs in the Cubase Pro. They offer it in Cubase Pro only, by the way. You would go to the envelope and find that last note, and then just go up or down. So this would be a tape stop effect. and this would be a speed up effect, and you can hear that. Actually, let's go more like that. Okay, yeah, so it's kind of too much at the end there, so right. You can go the other way, going down. Do that, and then if you want more gradual, just make it like that. Yeah, and you can also play with the range. There you go. That sounds more like a tape stop, and let's hear this. Right. So, and that's just to preview it, and then you would apply that. Once you apply it, then it's baked in there. Alright, so that's a tape speed up or slow down effect. Moving on, we have here the tremolo. Tremolos are a fancy word of having the track or a sustained note chopped up. And you can also call it glitching, so I just called it all three: tremolo, chopping up, and glitching. Now, this creates a rough, bumpy texture in your canvas of sounds, so to speak. So here's an example of what I mean. Okay, so what you just heard there on this part is this riser track that I had. I chopped it up, and then I also gradually increased the tremolo on it. And the tremolo, again, is just something you can automate and write in, so it can sound gradual. And as you heard here, I did something like this where I went da 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 da, and increased that, written the automation that way. Here's another example of that from another track I wrote called The Octagon. Okay, same idea. The bass guitar was chopped up a little bit, and you can manually do that, right? You don't have to use a plugin. You can do the old-fashioned way where you just chop up all of this, and you can do it very methodically too. But I'm just gonna show you for sake of time. You can do something like that every other note, and that's also another way to chop up the rhythm, right? I would recommend, if you do it this way, which is fine, and I prefer it sometimes over the other way with plugins. All right, and then I would round out that area just a little bit, so it's not so harsh as you do the chopping, and you don't hear these weird clicking and pops during that time. Alright, moving on. We also have here, the next trick is creating a giant cloud of reverb. So just a giant reverb here. So here we go. Alright, so this party rock anthem song, you can hear how it gradually gets bigger and bigger with the reverb. There's probably a little bit of overdrive or saturation added on there as well. So that's an effect that you can also do with automation. So a lot of this is hand in hand with automating it and making it gradual, so it's not so in your face all of a sudden. But when you have it gradually moving like that, then there's motion that you're creating to it. Next one, auto panning. Auto panning is usually done through a plugin. So here in Cubase, you go to modulation, auto pan. There's also fancy plugins from all sorts of companies out there. I'm just going to use a stock plugin here, and as you will see here, you can have it slow panning. So there's yes, everything's muted. So you'll see here, as it's being played, this is the left, and then goes down and goes back to the right, or sorry, to the right and then back to the left. So that's one way to do it. You know, you can program this to your liking. The rate will make it go faster, like that. Go in between, not as fast, slower, and then really slow, right? So that's the auto pan. You can do it left to right. Let's see, there's also ones that make it more crazy, like something like tremolo almost. See how that works? So let's hear how that would sound. Well, yeah, this is already done. It's baked in the audio, so I'm going to take this off. So this is from a Florence and the Machine song called Never Let Me Go.
Looking up from underneath.
Okay, so that's one song, and then the other one here is Kick That Man is what it's called. Alright, so as you hear, there are two different approaches. This one is more percussion based. The other auto pan was done on a sustained guitar sound. So that's my example of auto panning. I call it auto panning because it's done through a plugin of some sort that you program. Now, auto panning is great, but there's less control involved in that. So meaning at any point in time I press play, that auto pan will start on different points. So it might be better to manually pan your stuff, and then that way you can do more directional things, and it's always going to be panned at the same spots. So here is one example of that. Okay, so as you hear or heard there with the it's kind of like a high screechy synth. It starts from the right of the stereo field and it gradually goes to the left in direction. That's something I wrote for a film, and it's really useful for that kind of effect where it just puts you almost into this trance or a different world. And then here's another example of that. Yep, and so that's from Pan, the movie by scored by John Powell. I'll play it again. Cool. So this one is definitely programmed or manually panned, where the strings kind of go left and right, I believe. So that's a fun one for a more cinematic orchestral score. Here's the next point. Number 7 is going to be about your delays. Delays are one of the most important effects in your arsenal. There are great plugins like Echo Boy or Replica from Native Instruments that are not only do delays, but a combination of phasers, pitch shifting, and saturation, and more to create unique sounds. So I'm going to use this song as an example from The Police. So as you can hear there, the drums are being delayed in it. It's used in a very rhythmic way, but also kind of puts you in this different dimension, right? The song's called Walking on the Moon, so it sounds like you're out in the cosmos. Delays are deep. I'm only touching the surface here, but using them in certain moments of a piece can certainly increase interest in the audience. Going on, number 8 is reversing the audio. So a quick example of that would be your reverse cymbals, reversing claps, etc. Here's an example of a reverse clap that I wrote in a track called Zip Up the Beat. Again. right? So yeah, you can reverse it, and then with a combination of some of these other ear candy tricks, like adding a cloud of reverb or something, you can make it sound really cool. So reversing your sounds can be done not just with percussion, but with piano, with reverse guitars, reversed vocals. You hear all the time in those EDM songs. And this is a very simple trick that you guys can use for that. I highly recommend messing around with reversing not the typical stuff, but the atypical instruments that may not be done. And experiment, have fun with that. All right, and two more here. Number 9 is sidechain compression. This is also very popular in pop music and EDM. This gives a track some added energy and pump to a mix. So here's an example of that from David Guetta and Sia. And as you heard, there's a reverse clap there with a really big giant reverb cloud at the end too. So but this is a very typical approach to EDM. This also, just to say, this is on the extreme end of that. You don't have to make it sound so pumping that you feel like you're gonna have a seizure or something, but you know, that is very useful to give that energy, that pump. What you need to do in order to make it work is you have to have a 4 on the floor type of kick pattern. From there, go to your sustain pad track that you want the pumping effect on and put a compressor on it. And then after that, activate the sidechain on it. The last step is to turn on the send signal from the kick to the now activated sidechain track with the pre-fader on. Now you'll be able to get that pumping effect as long as the kick track is being triggered. Our last trick here for the day is number 10, muting. Muting is so simple, overlooked a lot of times, but you can mute and create some absence in the moment to create an interesting effect. I wanted to emphasize this last because sometimes not playing anything can make the difference. Here's an example of that. Okay, so that's one example. As you can hear it, that little stop or mute all of a sudden hopefully got your attention. But yeah, in the context of the entire song, it does make the track more interesting. Here's one more. This is an older one from LL Cool J. Hey, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Now you have 10 tricks that you can use in your arsenal for creating more interesting ear candy effects. A lot of this is very simple, straightforward stuff. You don't need a lot of fancy plugins, a lot of things you can chop up manually or do things inherent in your DAW. If you guys have any questions, feel free to add questions or comments below. If you have anything to add as far as what other ear candy effects are out there, let me know, and maybe I'll do like a part 2 for this type of tutorial. So okay, and thanks for watching again. I'll see you later.